So I'm pretty sure everybody has seen it by now, and I'm probably gonna be the 500th person to mention this, but yeah, Mega Man 11 is upon us, and this is my first edition at a shot of Gaming on the Go, a podcast series of which I take current gaming trends, talk about my opinions, um, hopes, suggestions, shit like that. So Mega Man 11 is upon us, and I figured I'd start here because I am a big Mega Man nut. Mega Man is among my top five favorite video game franchises ever. I've played, all the classic games, all the X games, Zero, ZX, some of Legends, some of Battle Network. I played a lot of Mega Man. Not necessarily all of it, but a lot of Mega Man. And it definitely took me by surprise that Capcom, after a good long 7-year hiatus, decided to bring upon Mega Man 11. When really the expectations were pretty dead low. A lot of people pretty much only expected maybe like a compilation or two, and there were definitely announcements of two different compilations, Legacy Collection for the Switch, and then the X games, but they didn't really specify whether that was going to be like a game itself or they were making a collection. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a collection for it, though. But anyways, the topic of today is Mega Man 11. And seeing as this is the first game in the series to be directed, not directed, but basically made under the veil of, Keiji Inafune being gone since 2011, 2012. It's been like 5 or so years now, hasn't it? We've basically got some fresh, I want to say fresh, but we've definitely got some different people under the veil here, looking to take Mega Man in a new direction. And as much as I enjoyed Mega Man 9 and 10, I respect them for going in this 2.5D art style direction, changing the character designs and all that, because really, when you think about it, we haven't seen a classic Mega Man that's actually pushed the series forward. I was always under the impression that, because the NES games, because of the fact that you had so many frames of animation for Mega Man and the artwork was beautiful. I always felt like each series was a very slight improvement over the other, save for maybe a few exceptions along the road, thinking Mega Man's 5 and 6. But, it definitely felt like I was under the impression that they were trying to undergo, a minor evolution through the series. But keeping the core gameplay intact. ZX and Zero, they have, the same core Mega Man run and shoot gameplay, but they kind of kept the whole stage design philosophies the same. But with Mega Man 9 and 10, it was going backwards, and while it was good for a nostalgic throwback, I just couldn't really see what they could have done with it going forward. And I think that was the biggest concern I had. It's how are you going to follow up those games? You kind of went backwards, so do we continue going backwards, or do we leave off of where Mega Man 8 was and then go from there? And I'm kind of glad to say that they didn't stick with that move. But I do have to raise a few concerns. So far, just looking at the footage, I think the character designs are beautiful. I know a lot of people compare the visual style of this to Mega Man, not Mega Man, but Mighty Number 9 quite frequently. And yeah, there are similar art style deviations I see here and there. Just kind of looking at the characters themselves, but it definitely doesn't look like a GameCube PS2 era kind of game. It definitely looks like it has the art style, but it has the polish that Mighty Number 9 should have had. I think the character designs look great. I feel like they're kind of going for like this half-esque looking cell shaded art style, perhaps. Like I can kind of see like the black outlines on the characters, and I think it just kind of gives this game its own added flair that keeps it set apart from most other 2.5D platformers. But like the visual style for the stages, I feel like I feel like they're a bit flat. Like I feel like I'm looking at like too much watercolor going on here and there. Like I know Mega Man hasn't had the best like graphical direction, I guess you could say, but like I'm seeing the way this game looks, and just like graphically speaking, I just don't think it's something that should take as long as it's taking, Like I'm looking through like the conveyor belt looking stages and like the green looking bricks and all, and I just think it's too monocolored when classic Mega Man's always had like this colorful vibe going for it. Just look at Mega Man 7 and 8, for example, And I'm not saying 8's the best example. I thought 8 was a little too bright in the eyes. But, like, it's a cartoony series, And I get that, like, in 2017, like, Saturday morning cartoons aren't really something people want out of a series like this anymore, to an extent. But it just looks dull. Like, the colors just look dull, Just seeing how far I can go with this whole unscripted commentary. But yeah, it's just the visual style of like these areas really kind of needs some work. But like I think the biggest concern I have really, and this is something that the Mega Man series had struggled with since like the late PS1 era, like the late 5th generation era, and pretty much all of the 6th and 7th gen era, is that, God, I really hope to God they market this series well. Like, I am a firm defender of games like Mega Man Zero and ZX because they are games that I feel like are the closest thing we had at the time to a modern evolution of Mega Man. Like, the biometals in ZX were cool as shit. Like, not only did you have, like, these weapons, but they upgraded, like, all of your different movement options, and I thought that was really awesome. They took the level design and ZX and kind of, like, made it more open-ended, And it was kind of hit or miss for some people, but I felt like it was definitely a concept sitting there that looked like it could have been expanded upon. And I'm not saying they should revisit this, but what I'm trying to say here is that, like, a lot of people assume, like, after the X series or so, at least halfway through, like, the series had just fallen off. And I'm just telling you, that was just clearly not the case. It's just the problem here is that, with Keiji Inafune was around, like, people had commented that he's a businessman, but God, he's not a good businessman. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just didn't really get word of these games out there at all. It's just like, it baffles me really. Like, I get games like Resident Evil and Street Fighter take more precedence because they make more money for Capcom, but I'm hoping that, with the new direction the series is going, that I hope that God, like, they start, like, pushing it into the front light a little bit more, because like Mega Man's like one of those series that kind of got Capcom off the rear and got them going, I mean, just look at Mega Man 2 and what it did for like Capcom moving forward, at least at the time. Like, Mega Man's like kind of like one of those iconic mascot characters that you can't really forget about, and like I just don't really feel like they're they've never done him justice since the PS1 era because like the marketing has just been very slim. Like I can only think of maybe like 4 games that have like at least made like 1 million in sales. Compare that to like say Mario Kart 8, for example, and that's a spin-off of the Mario series, for example, which makes maybe at least like 8 million. You know? Yeah. It's like they really need to do a good job, like keeping us up to date, keeping us informed, making sure that they keep this game like like one of the most successful marketing campaigns I can recall was Fire Emblem Awakening. That was another series that was about to go down under if it did not succeed with that entry. And goddamn, did you see that game everywhere, you know? This is a series that made like less than 500,000 in sales. And when you saw this game everywhere, including like YouTube ads and shit, it's like you couldn't not know about it, you know? The presentation looked amazing. Like, say what you will about it not adhering to like the best moments in Fire Emblem history as far as the mechanics and map design go, but like as a starting point and just the way they hyped it up, it was done perfectly. And I'm just really hoping that like Mega Man 11 gets this same kind of treatment, you know? I'm not saying Capcom's as, you know, rich as Nintendo, because they probably aren't. I mean, there was at one point where they had to announce they were reaching bankruptcy at one point because they weren't doing so hot. But I think they're slowly getting themselves out of this. They're doing a little bit better. There's some things I don't quite agree with, though, like they've done as of recent, like Street Fighter V shenanigans and shit. But, like, with the new kind of, like, people that are... From what I recall, the person who came up with the idea for Mega Man 11 was somebody who had not necessarily had done Mega Man in the past, but he had done, like, some of the 2D games that Capcom was known for, like Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse and Super Ghouls and Ghosts. So like he has experience around platformers, but like from what I recall, like he felt that if nobody else was going to revive Mega Man, that he was going to do it, you know. And I'm really hoping that with this new management, like hopefully, like, you know, as far as marketing goes, as far as the direction in which the series is going from here on out, I really hope they don't make the same mistakes Keiji Inafune did, you know. And yeah, Mega Man 11. It's a game that certainly shocked me, but I need to. It wasn't some. I'm hype. I'm happy. I'm happy that this game is finally happening. But like, you know, amongst the concerns I had addressed, like the direction of like the art, like the presentation, the marketing, I definitely feel like that's something that could be worked on, and just hoping that this game sells well, you know. I'm really hoping this game does well. Anywho, thank you guys for watching. I apologize if this was a gigantic mess. And anywho, this has been Gaming on the Go. This is Ken Meister LP, and I will see you guys then.